In this video, I'll teach you the basics of how to choose a font and also show you a few sneaky typographic tricks. Now, I've got a basic title here in Final Cut Pro. From the Titles browser in the Bumper Opener category, I've taken the basic title. I'll just hide that now to keep things simple. And I've got a basic, boring title in which I've typed "Defaults are boring." The font which is used by default in Final Cut is Helvetica, and it's a classic choice, but it has been used many times. In general, I would avoid any font used as a default, and you can get many other fonts these days to use instead. Now, there's a couple of things to avoid. Don't use Comic Sans. Some people will hate you if you do. Same with Papyrus. And so if you want to know which fonts you should be using, well, you'll probably want to look at a couple of different categories. There's sans serif and serif. For examples here, I've used Source Sans Pro and Source Serif Pro. So what is a serif? See the little feet on the F there, and the I and the R, and the extra little whittles and marks that some of the characters have. Those are serifs, and a sans serif font doesn't have them. Now, to get more fonts that you can use for free, head to fonts.google.com. This is not Googling for fonts. This is using fonts from Google's free open source font repository. If you know a font by name, you can search through it. And the process of downloading a font is simply clicking on it, checking the various weights and typefaces available, and hitting Download Family. Once it hits your Mac, double-click and you'll install those fonts. Now, if you don't know what you're looking for, look through the categories. You can see the serif and sans serif categories. There's others as well. So if you want a handwriting font, you could search through the collection. If you want to test your own text, then you can absolutely just type it in and see it live. And if you decide, oh, I like the look of Kaoshin script, click it and then hit Download in the top right corner. These are all 100% open source and free, and they're a great place to get started with new fonts. Now, as well as fonts, there's just a few typographic tricks that are a really good idea. Because you're on a Mac, there's a long history of graphic design, and you can type Option and Shift Option to get to some special characters. A bullet is Option 8, a mid dot is Option Shift 9. You shouldn't be using a hyphen for the gap between two separate concepts. That should be an M dash, Option Shift hyphen. There's also copyright symbol, registered trademark, but probably the one which you'll encounter more than anything else is proper curly quotes. So I'll just show you the difference here if I edit this text. That is a straight double quote, and that's a straight single quote, and that's what you get by default. So instead of typing those things, use Option left square bracket to get an opening double quote, and Shift Option left square bracket to get a closing double quote. Now, the one you'll use more than anything else is Shift Option right square bracket, which is a closing single quote, or an apostrophe. Now, paying attention to these things may not be noticeable to everyone, but if there's any design savvy people in your chain of approvals, they'll really appreciate these little touches. In the next video, let's talk about aspect ratio.